Good afternoon, Mr. Muller.
Good afternoon, Chief Justice.
I noticed from your questionnaire that you've really gone all out to empower yourself by acquiring even a Doctor of Laws degree.
That's correct.
Yes. Have you lectured a bit here and there?
No, Chief Justice, I was asked by the Bar Council to lecture pupils on 2 occasions.
Okay. And excluding your experience as a prosecutor, magistrate, you've been a practicing advocate for about 25 years now.
That's correct, from 1991.
And for how many years as a junior?
Up to 2009.
That makes it okay. I can't work it out, but as senior,
about 18 or 19 years.
yes, and as senior, about 6, 7 years thereabout.
That's correct, yes.
And I noticed that you've acted on a number of occasions as a High Court judge in Gauteng.
That's correct.
All in all, how many months does this come down to?
Well, I think it's about between 11 and 14 weeks, I think. There were always short spells, about 2 weeks. I was only once asked to act for a month.
Yes. Well, JP?
Thank you, Chief Justice. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
Bella.
JP.
After Bella, I note in your survey that in the bundle of cases which you have furnished us, that you acted as an advocate in 5 cases, reported cases in the before the Constitutional Court.
That's
and
correct.
also I note 5 reported cases in the Supreme Court of Appeal.
Yes.
Along this line, I gather that you seem to be having quite a lot of experience in the High Court litigation.
I do have. I was lucky over the period to have appeared in both these courts for a number of occasions.
Now, with the experience you have as counsel, senior counsel for that matter, what value would you bring to Limpopo High Court as a new division developing?
Well, JP, I think if one takes into account my career was actually, there's actually 2 halves of it. The first 20 years in the magistrates court where I obtained a lot of experience in criminal work. Then the latter 20 years where I was more involved in civil litigation. I think over those, I think that's almost 20, 40 years, I've gained a lot of experience in court procedure, to be in court, and also to adjudicate matters in court. And I think under those circumstances, I will definitely be an asset to a new division. And I think I can bring a lot to that division.
Lastly, just give us a variety of cases you have handled broadly, both criminal and civil, in particular civil cases, the variety of cases.
Well, in civil matters, I have a general practice. There are matters where I did insolvency matters, matters where there are claims against the police, and also matters, commercial matters where I appeared in. Criminal matters in the latter part was mostly appeals. The last criminal trial that I did was the Bogaerts matter, which I started in a magistrates court, then appeared in the High Court in the appeal, and then appeared in the Supreme Court of Appeals in the appeal, and then appeared in the Constitutional Court in the appeal, and then back into the magistrates court again.
Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you, JP. Mr. Singh?
Thank you, Chief Justice. Sir, with regard to case management, how do you see yourself managing your cases in your court if you're appointed so that justice is speedily dispensed?
Well, it depends on certainly on the procedures followed, but once a trial started, I would definitely implore people to finish it, because it has happened in the past that a case is set down for 3 days, for instance, and then one witness is called in 3 days, and he testified for 3 days, and the matter has to be postponed. Under those circumstances, I arranged with the parties to hear the case in the recess, so that the matter can just be finalized. Case management, if a matter is fairly big, then obviously when the file is brought to you as a judge, you can manage the case by calling in counsel and arrange with them to deal with the matter as expediently as possible.
Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Commissioner Helens.
Mr. Muller, I'd like you to, you're going to a new division, and they're going to be, I think the jargon is challenges to establishing that court. An area of concern of mine is the facilities that judges have to have their judgments typed. And secondly, the difficulty that is if you want to give an extempore judgment, even though you've worked it out completely, and you can dictate it as we used to do, as you are used to doing in practice, the quality of the transcription services in court are such that when you get the judgment back, you can't recognize what you said. What are your comments about that, and what would you do about it? Although you're not going to be a JP if you get appointed, you're just a judge. But I'd like your views on that. So it's the secretarial services available to judges for typing and the transcription services available in the courts.
Well, I've recently had that problem, and what I do is I asked the transcriber to send a copy of the judgment to my home, and then I do it personally there. To correct the judgment and then send it back again. Otherwise, one has a problem, but there's the only way of doing it if you want to finish it in as quickly as possible.
And with regard to your secretary, your registrar, my experience is that you don't really get a secretary when you get a registrar. Is that wrong? Is that your experience?
Yes, well, if you act, then you don't choose the secretary, you get one. And I found it more convenient to rather do the judgments at home and finish them there than to ask anybody else to do it, especially if you're only there for a week or 2 weeks.
But you would agree in general, would you, that this is an area where judges struggle? In other words, one of the imperatives is not to reserve judgment, but if you can, to give a judgment immediately or extempore. And if you do that, you would do it in open court. And the difficulty with that is the transcription service.
Yes, well, that's a practical difficulty. Obviously, when I would like to have a secretary that can type properly and to deal with that in the office. But at times when you act, you have these difficulties, and that's why I do it that way.
Well, an easier way, of course, is this automatic transcription facility that many courts around the world have introduced. As you speak, the machine transcribes whoever needs the record, including the judgment. It's available electronically. You don't have to go and pay anybody to go and make mistakes trying to transcribe the record afterwards.
Well, that is the position. Then
At the touch of the button, anybody has the record who needs it, but of course that requires resources.
Yes, but
Yes.
that's obvious. If that is in the real world, that probably not happen soon.
Yes. Commissioner Mutimela?
Thank you, Chief Justice. Good afternoon, Council.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mutimela.
I would like to put it to you that we know each other, we litigate against each other, and that we're in the same buildings,
That's
New
correct.
Court Chambers.
That's correct.
If you were to be appointed to Limpopo High Court, being white male Afrikaner, and having in mind that the constitution of the court is number of 7 judges, 6 male Africans and 1 female African. How do you think your appointment will contribute to transformation and or diversity of that court?
Well, I think as far as transformation is concerned, the appointment of 1 white male will probably not rock the boat to any extent. At the end of the day, you have to do a specific job, and whether you're white or not does not change that. The court, obviously, I think, has to have a diversity of people, and me being there will fulfill that. Apart from that, Limpopo has large rural areas where there's Afrikaners, farmers, and so on. And obviously, when you do cases there, that will also facilitate the process if you are Afrikaans and the witnesses are Afrikaans.
Thank you, Advocate Muller. Thank you, CJ.
Thank you, Advocate Mutimele. Commissioner Schmidt.
Thank you, Chief Justice. If one looks at page 17 of your questionnaire, your acting stints seem to have been a question of days rather than a question of months. In terms of, let's say, for instance, 8 to 12 April 2013, February 2014, it was 1 month. April, May, 18 days, 17, 20, June, 20. So it's a question of days. Could you just explain that to us?
Well, the first time that I acted, I was asked to act for that short period. There was another occasion where Judge Fabricius injured his knee and had to go to hospital, and I was asked to step in, and I think I was there. I think that was in April, 21st April to the 9th of May. I think it was that period. But mostly, although I didn't mind acting for a longer period, I was only asked to act for 14 days or 10 days.
So we shouldn't draw an adverse deduction from the fact that you acted were available for days rather than months. That's basically what I'm asking.
No.
Okay. Then secondly, on page, I'm not sure how this works, but we're back to page 4. But anyway, academic publications, your wide general field of knowledge seems to be indicated by your academic publications, from tax law, Customs and Excise Act, other waters above the continental shelf part of South Africa for purposes of the Customs Excise Act, then banking law, then labor law, then international/maritime law. Is that a fair reflection of your practice and your...
No. The fact that I am doctorate in international law doesn't mean anything as far as practice is concerned. I studied that because at the time I decided to do it in that particular direction, and not necessarily to see whether I can benefit from practice. The first publication, the Aanspreeklikheid van Banke, that was my master's dissertation, which I've written for the Masters in Import and Export Law. The second one, regarding the Watersboer Vlaslandsplat, I'd written that because I was under the impression at the time that I needed that as a publication before I can obtain the LLB degree. I was then told it was not necessary, but I published it in any event. As far as the others are concerned, I was asked by these people to write short articles with regard to the labor law, which I did. But that is not, labor law is a small portion of what I do.
Thank you, Commissioner Schmidt. Commissioner Ndoni.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Good afternoon, Council.
Good afternoon.
In one of your academic publications, one titled "Are the Waters Above the Continental Shelf Part of South Africa for the Purposes of Customs and Excise?" What is the reference to continental shelf, and are they part of South Africa, those waters that you're referring to?
Yes, the argument was that the continental shelf is part of the Republic, and that, but not necessarily the waters above the continental shelf, because it's further than the 15 nautical miles distance from where the littoral sea ends. And that was the argument in that article.
Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you, Commissioner Ndoni. Commissioner Nokesi.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Advocate, from both from the questionnaire and the CV, I don't see a demonstrable contribution in transformation on your part. Am I wrong?
Yes, you're wrong. Obviously, if you read the report, in the law report, you will see that in some of these cases, I had black juniors. I think, as far as the Constitutional Court is concerned, the first two cases, the Bogaerts case and the Nabolisa case, I was alone. The rest of the cases, I had juniors, one white and the other black juniors.
Secondly, if I look onto your date of birth, you were born in 1953, which means you are now heading to your 63rd
year.
birthday this year in September,
Correct.
effectively leaving you with 7 years before you reach your 7th year. Don't you think that you have left it long before you apply?
I only joined the bar when I was 37, and obviously because you're a junior at 37, you have to wait at least 15 years to get to senior status. So obviously that has taken a toll in that sense, that I only joined the bar at a very late stage in my life.
And lastly, you are presently residing at Centurion at your age with your family there. Are you prepared to relocate to Polokwane, assuming that you are appointed at this very level of your age?
Yes, I'm prepared to do that. You'll note in my history that I was transferred on many occasions. In the olden days, I was transferred from Barberton to Belfast, from Belfast to Eshowe to Kokstad, and back to Pietermaritzburg. So I don't mind moving from one town to another town.
Thank you, Commissioner. Advocate Muller, you are excused.
Thank you very much.